by West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Senator, it's great to have you. Things are going very well in West Virginia with the reopening. Can you bring us up to speed on that?
Yes, absolutely. We're in week 7 of our gradual reopening. We've been very mindful of the reinfection rate and watching that very closely, and we've kept it way under. It's less than almost less than 1% in some days. And so now we are beginning to open our state parks, our as you said, our casinos, our movie theaters. You can dine in with distancing. But everybody's very mindful of staying either socially distanced or wearing a mask. We don't wear a mask with the frequency that they do here in Washington, D.C., I can tell you that. But we were one of the first states to begin testing our nursing homes and sort of isolate that area. We had an outbreak in a prison. We sort of isolated that outbreak. So I'm really proud of what West Virginians have done in terms of meeting this challenge.
Yeah, we're all looking back on how different states handled things. And I guess one of the things, you don't want to jump to any conclusions, it's not over yet, but maybe focusing a lot more energy on the at-risk segments of the population might have been a way to go. But we've never been through this before, and everybody was trying to find the way for the first time. So in hindsight, it looks like maybe that would have been better, because there has been a lot of economic damage and continues to be. And maybe you avoided some of that in West Virginia.
Right. We did do it early, and we did, as I said, isolate. I mean, another thing, on Monday, Little League can now practice. And so families are beginning to reach some sort of semblance of normalcy. And I think that leads to not just an economic uptick, but also an emotional uptick, so that families feel like, you can see the end of the light or the end of the tunnel here, where things are going to begin to get better. We still have high unemployment. A lot of our folks are still closed. Our manufacturing's gone back. So I'm very encouraged by what I see, and we've been able to restrict the spread at the same time.
Senator, it's difficult to turn states down that need a lot of help. But then I think about when the Fed, after the 2008 crisis, we looked at the size of the Fed's balance sheet. Now look at the size of it after this. We thought that 18 or 19 trillion in federal debt was going to be unmanageable. And, we've pulled out all the stops, and we're up at levels much higher than that in the low to mid 20s at this point. Is it time now yet to start saying we got to start thinking about spending things effectively, or do we still need to pull out all the stops to help states that obviously have been shut down? They have no tax revenue, and they have police, well,
I think as you look at the general thing, we've already put over $3.3 trillion into this. We do believe with the PPP program that we've been able, with the good news we got on Friday, to sort of point to that as a very positive note in terms of retaining some jobs and keeping our business doors open. So I think now's a good time for us to pause, rather than throw $3 trillion like they have on the House at more and more programs. I think we need to sort of turn a little bit and maybe look, yes, recovery still, but more towards stimulus as we try to sustain the growth we see going on. So I think you're going to see us assess programs for the next 3 to 4 weeks, work together to see, do we need individual assistance, small business assistance, and then getting to the state issue. Smaller states, like my state, got $1.25 billion, but we don't have the loss COVID-related that, say, New York State does. And so it's going to be hard for our governor to be able to assess that as a COVID-related loss to the state. Where the cities and counties really are losing is their B&O tax and their sales tax. So that's why a lot of us say, let's go ahead and let the state of West Virginia and others take that $1.25 billion and backfill some of these lost revenues in our cities so that they can keep their essential services. And I think that makes total sense to me. It's no new money. It's what the governors already have. It's just giving them a little bit more flexibility.
Do the reopenings in some of the other states, is that on everyone's radar back in D.C. and maybe in Arizona or Texas? Or, I mean, we're all looking out there.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think we all recognize that the worst thing that can happen really is that you'd have to reclose, because that would have just a devastating effect, obviously, on the economy, but a whole bunch of other things at the same time, not to mention health. That's why we're moving forward with more robust testing. We're testing millions and millions of people a week. Our universities are trying to figure out a way to reopen. I think that's going to be critical turning point to seeing that we can gather in larger groups, monitor the spread, and then face those challenges. And I think you're going to see us move towards looking at that as we monitor what's going on in other states. Absolutely.
You know, Senator, we haven't had a lot of Washington people on as much recently. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you whether you think there's a federal answer to some of the questions that we're trying to deal with, some solutions for what's happening in society right now. Is it what can we do federally? Is there something there? I don't know, police rules, something? What do you think?
I think there is something there. I think that obviously this is a national awakening. We're in Washington, D.C., where even where I'm sitting now, this building is totally boarded up. And so it's a stark reminder of what's gone on in the last week. But there's a lot of peaceful protesting still going on here in D.C., and that's great for people's voices to be heard. I think we can look at national, police registries in terms of what's the past violations as a police officer had, to make sure that, different states are aware where you might be getting a bad apple. I think that's an issue. I think certainly that we are going to definitely come forward with a package. You saw the Democrats come forward yesterday with one. This is something we can work on together. It's tough stuff, and it's difficult, but we've got to make sure that justice for all is equal, and that we're going into this with eyes wide open. And I think if we in Congress don't begin to talk about this together in a positive way on a national scale, I think we would be deemed a failure in the American people's eyes because we turned our heads the other way.
I wonder how, after all of this, we're going to owe a lot of money. We're going to still be dealing with inequality and I know growth helps there, and a lot of times that's the go-to answer for Republicans. But are there things in the tax structure, in your view, that need to be changed now to try to deal with just the overall inequality problems, or is that something the private sector needs to take care of?
Well, we gave the private sector a great opportunity through opportunity zones to begin to go to those areas that have been, are less productive or are in a great downturn, and in many cases, that's where we see some problems developing either in our cities or even in the rural areas where there's a lot of joblessness, where there's no hope. And so to try to bring in economic activity into those areas, I think, is one thing that we have done through our tax structure. It's been on pause because everything's been on pause over the last 4 months. So we're going to get back to this. I've been talking to Senator Scott, who's been a real leader here, to see if maybe that's a place where we can bring our manufacturing of our face masks and our where we found they were over in China and Italy and Germany and all these other places. Why not, reconnect our manufacturing sector for the health products into the areas where we know we can, we have people who are really willing to work, but just don't have the opportunities. And so I think building on our opportunity zone legislation is something that I think will help some of these issues.
Right. Hopefully we'll have some positive GDP in some of the quarters ahead anyway, Senator, because that certainly is we're going to need that to deal with.
Well, I think we're in for a long haul here, and I think we all realize that.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.